Ever catch yourself looking at how something's done and thinking, man, there's got to be a smarter way?
It's like that innate drive for efficiency kicks in.
Yeah, exactly. And you know who seems to have that in spades? Process engineers. Your research materials, all those RoleCatcher guides especially, really painted a cool picture of what they do. Seems like you're about to become a process engineer ontologist.
Well, it is a field that's always changing, always in demand. It's not just about making things a little better. It's like understanding how to unlock a system's true potential.
And what really struck me is how it's everywhere now. This isn't just about factories anymore. Our deep dive today is going to show just how these process engineer wizards are shaking things up, from pharmaceuticals to energy, even the food we eat. They've got the recipe for improvement, it seems.
It's true, the reach is really expanding. The core idea, though, that's what's fascinating, taking solid engineering principles and applying them anywhere you need to boost output, improve quality. And let's be honest, profits matter too.
They definitely do. And speaking of which, those RoleCatcher guides didn't sugarcoat the job outlook. High demand practically jumped off every page. But they also made it clear that staying ahead of the curve is key. Automation, digitization, all that hot new tech, it's like you got to be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. Industry 4.0 is transforming everything. It's not even just analyzing what exists anymore. Process engineers are designing the solutions of the future, using cutting-edge tools. It's really shaping how things get done, you know?
And that takes a unique set of skills. Your research had the usual suspects, strong engineering basics, obviously, but then it's data analysis, complex problem solving. It's like part engineer, part detective with a dash of fortune teller. What really stood out to you as a must-have for someone on this path?
Honestly, the one that kept coming up was systems thinking. And it makes sense. You can't just tweak one thing in isolation. Got to see the whole picture, how each piece affects the others. Like if you change this part of a process, what happens down the line? Almost like conducting an orchestra, making sure every instrument plays its part perfectly for that sweet, sweet symphony of efficiency.
That is a great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of harmony, it wasn't all just hardcore tech stuff, right? These guides really stressed the human side of process engineering too. Collaboration, communication, even a bit of persuasion thrown in there.
For sure, it's not a solo act. A good process engineer, they're working with teams, stakeholders, maybe even those regulatory folks. Got to break down complex ideas so everyone gets it, then get buy-in, and finally champion that change. Needs serious people skills on top of all the technical know-how.
It's like they're orchestrating people, processes, the whole shebang. And speaking of how things work together, the RoleCatcher guides, they actually laid out a pretty clear career path. You know, starting out assisting those senior engineers, then eventually leading projects, and finally, they're the ones driving those big picture improvements across entire companies. It's a whole journey, isn't it?
It really is. And it's cool how they broke it down into stages, each with its own challenges, responsibilities, all that. Shows you how you can build up your expertise over time, starting with that solid base.
Totally. Like leveling up in a video game, right? Gain experience, unlock new skills, and suddenly you're facing down those bigger, badder challenges. So let's rewind to the very beginning. Entry-level process engineer, fresh out of school, maybe an internship or two under their belt. What's their day-to-day actually like?
Oh, at that stage, it's all about soaking up knowledge, like a sponge. Picture them as apprentice wizards, learning from the seasoned pros. Helping those senior engineers evaluate processes, finding those spots where things could be smoother, more efficient, you know? They're gathering data, getting their hands dirty with real-world problem solving, dipping their toes into the world of analysis.
Getting those hands dirty with the gears of the machine, seeing how it all works. The guide even had that example profile, remember?
Yeah.
Recent grad, bachelor's in engineering, maybe a Six Sigma green belt on their resume, eager to learn, contribute to the team, make a difference.
Exactly. Building that foundation, that's crucial. And speaking of foundations, that takes us to the next step up. The junior process engineer. Paid their dues, gained some experience. Now it's time for more responsibility.
Yeah, time to take off the training wheels.
Yeah.
So what does that actually look like? What kind of projects are landing on their plate now?
Now they're moving from assisting to leading, you see. Taking charge of smaller process improvement projects, this is where they really start flexing those analytical muscles, maybe doing some deeper statistical analysis to root out those bottlenecks that are gumming up the works. And it's not just identifying the problem anymore, it's designing and implementing the solutions too.
Like a chef who's graduated from chopping veggies to creating their own dishes, right? And the credentials get a little fancier here too. The guide mentioned a junior process engineer with a master's in engineering, a Six Sigma black belt. Clearly, they're taking their training seriously.
It's that dedication, that hunger for improvement that propels them to the next level. Process engineer. No more junior in the title now. They've arrived.
Earn their stripes. So what sets this level apart from their junior days? What does a process engineer's world look like?
Now we're talking bigger, more complex projects, sometimes even spanning across different departments. They're developing strategies to optimize entire processes, not just individual parts. It's like they've become fluent in the language of efficiency, able to streamline and supercharge any system they encounter.
So instead of just designing a room, now they're planning the whole building, making sure everything flows together.
Precisely. They're collaborating with teams from all over, mentoring junior engineers, becoming that go-to expert for all things process improvement. Their impact on the company's bottom line, it's undeniable at this point.
Yeah, and that example profile they gave in the guide really hammered that home. We're talking about a process engineer with a Lean Six Sigma Master black belt. That's dedication. They're not messing around. Clearly, they've bought into that whole continuous learning thing.
And it's that commitment that sets the stage for reaching the peak. Senior process engineer, the apprentice has become the master.
The Jedi Master of Process Improvement, up there on Process Engineering Mount Everest. So what's the view like from up there? What are they actually doing at that level? So they've reached the summit, planted their flag on top of Process Engineering Everest. What's it like up there? What are they actually doing in that rarefied air?
Well, at that level, it's less about managing individual projects, and more about setting the strategic direction. They're shaping the entire organization's approach to process improvement.
So they've zoomed out. It's not just optimizing one system. It's about changing how the whole company thinks about efficiency itself.
Exactly. They're like, I don't know, conductors leading an orchestra of different departments, all playing together to create this symphony of peak performance.
Okay, I love that analogy. And the example profile the guide gave for this stage, wow, we're talking PhD in engineering, years of experience under their belt, and of course that Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, the whole 9 yards. But it's more than just the technical stuff, right? They highlighted how important it is to understand the people side of things, that whole change management aspect.
It's huge. You can't just force change. You got to bring everyone along on the journey, build that culture of continuous improvement from the ground up.
Sounds like they've really mastered that balance between the technical and the leadership side of things.
For sure. And, one thing that really stood out in your research was how important it is to never stop learning in this field. All this professional organizations, certifications, industry events, it's a lifelong journey.
Constantly leveling up their skills to face the next challenge. RoleCatcher even mentions specific certifications like that Certified Manufacturing Engineer or the Certified Professional in Supply Management. Really shows how process engineering skills can go way beyond just one industry.
It's about always looking for opportunities to learn, grow, expand your horizons. That's key in this field.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of process engineering, I wanted to touch on something that's been swirling around in my head. It's like this underlying theme I noticed running through all those RoleCatcher materials. Process engineering as this bridge between the theoretical and the practical. You're not just crunching numbers in some ivory tower, right? You're using that knowledge to make a real difference in the real world.
It's true. It's that mix of engineering know-how and hands-on problem solving that makes this field so unique. Taking those theoretical concepts and turning them into solutions that actually work, improving efficiency, quality, and yeah, even those profits we talked about.
Right. So for someone listening to this, someone who's always been drawn to the idea of making things better, optimizing, tinkering, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from our deep dive into process engineering?
That's a good one. I'd say if you're passionate about problem solving, if the idea of making systems work smarter, not harder, really gets you fired up, and if you love that connection between theory and putting it into practice, then process engineering might just be calling your name.
It's a field that's constantly evolving, full of opportunities, definitely its share of challenges. But as we've seen from all your research, it's a career with some serious staying power.
It's about more than just being a cog in the machine. It's about understanding the whole thing, how all the pieces fit together, and then finding ways to make it run smoother, faster, better. And honestly, that's something I think we could all use a little more of in our lives, don't you think?
Couldn't agree more. Now, as you continue exploring the fascinating world of process engineering, here's a little something to ponder. We've covered the technical skills, but what about the personality side of things? What kind of mindset, what kind of drive does it take to not only succeed as a process engineer, but to really thrive in this field, especially with how fast it's changing? Something to chew on as you imagine yourself as that architect of efficiency, the maestro of optimization, the one who makes things work better. That's it for today's deep dive into process engineering. Until next time.